the optics were the left was burning down Hamburg while Donald Trump made a beautiful, beautiful speech defending Western civilization in Poland. The left then reacted to this saying, oh my gosh, Western civilization is a dog whistle for racism. He's just being racist and Nazi. Western civilization, mustn't talk about Western civilization. When leftist activist and leader of the women's marches, Linda Sarsour, calls for jihad, and everybody says, oh, well, jihad means, we all know that this is a spiritual jihad, so they understand. So here they are basically damning Western culture and celebrating jihad, and meanwhile, it's very hard to tell what exactly happened in Trump's meeting with Vladimir Putin, but it seemed to go pretty well. They got this Syrian ceasefire for as long as it lasts out of it. There was some kind of controversy about whether Trump conceded. Putin's people basically said that Trump believed Putin when he denied meddling with the election. That is not what Donald Trump says happened. Trump apparently really gave it to Putin for a good 45 minutes over this question. It really went on, and he was really putting it to him. Later, Trump sent out a kind of silly tweet saying they were going to have some joint cybersecurity thing, which is ridiculous. We're not sharing. I wouldn't share my password with the Russians, and I got nothing on my computer that they want to see. But Trump later said that's not going to happen. It would be a nice thing if it could, but it can't. So it just seemed that it was basically a 2-hour meeting where they were exchanging ideas and trying to come together, and then kind of Rex Tillerson sort of blew it a little bit he was describing it to reporters, and he sort of put it that they were talking about Syria as if Russia and America were actual full allies. Listen.
We spent a very, very lengthy period on Syria with a great amount of detail exchanged on the agreement we had concluded today that was announced, but also where we go, and trying to get much greater clarity around how we see this playing out and how Russia sees it playing out. And where do we share a common view and where do we have a difference? And do we have the same objectives in mind? And I would tell you that by and large, our objectives are exactly the same. How we get there, we each have a view, but there's a lot more commonality to that than there are differences. So we want to build on the commonality, and we spend a lot of time talking about next steps. And then where there's differences, we have more work to get together and understand maybe they've got the right approach and we've got the wrong approach. So there was a substantial amount of time spent on Syria.
So we can cut Tillerson a break. He's trying to be a diplomat. He's a chief diplomat trying to be diplomatic, but it's nonsense. I mean, our objectives and the Russian objectives in Syria are completely different. Russia's objectives are to build a lot of bases in Syria and keep their monster Assad in power. And our objectives, of course, are to make it a better country, bring a little peace to the region and keep Russia's influence to a minimum. So we do not have the same objectives. John McCain, with his usual restraint and, good nature and quiet calm, reacted to Tillerson's comments.
Do the Russians have the right?
You can't make that up. You can't make that up. These are the same people that use precision-guided weapons to strike hospitals in Aleppo where sick and wounded people are. This is just, I'm preparing myself mentally to be on this show. I said, John, you're not going to get upset. You're not going to get emotional. But I've met the White Hats. I know what the slaughter has been. I know that the Russians knew that Bashar Assad was going to use chemical weapons. And to say that maybe we've got the wrong approach? Look, I agonized over voting for or against Tillerson for Secretary of State. Not that I didn't admire his success and all the great things he's done, but the things that he'd said in the past. He has divorced a fundamental of American democracy. The reason why we are the shining city on the hill, as Ronald Reagan used to say, is because they look up to us because of our principles and our beliefs and our advocacy of freedom. For freedom. That's what America is supposed to be all about, not whether they're right and we're wrong.
So, I don't know. I actually agree with McCain here. I mean, I agree. We have no connection to what the Russians are doing to people. We have no connection. You know, we bombed them. Trump bombed them in answer to their use of Syria's use of chemical weapons. He shot down a plane that was bombing allies. We shot down a plane that was bombing our allies in the field, and the Russians threatened to retaliate. In our actions, we have shown that we are still standing up for ourselves and for our principles. What would it have cost McCain, I wonder, to just say, you know, Tillerson is still a neophyte and he made a mistake here, instead of basically accusing him of burning down the American ideal? What would it have been? Just like, take a drink, John, like, cool it. All right.